Hey everybody, welcome back to No Bull Biz TV and podcast show. It's your host, Jeremy Crawford here today. I'm excited. I was asked by Coach Christina out of Chicago, Illinois, to do an interview with me. And so we're on her show today. And we really tried our best to get the Zoom call to work so she could be on there with the video. But unfortunately, there was some bandwidth, some Wi-Fi issues over in her part of the world, which is crazy because Wi-Fi and internet in the US is super good. But anyways, I guess she's in one of those zones. So anyways, what we did is we had her record it on her end, and she's going to be featuring that through her podcast. And then we just did the voiceover with the video, and we put her photo up there so you'll be able to see what she looks like. And if you want to follow her, you can follow her on Instagram at The Coach Christina. So once again, that's at The Coach Christina, and we'll make sure that we put her handle up in the corner under her profile photo for this podcast episode. So excited, we're gonna fire this up. Let's go.
Hi, Jeremy, and welcome to the show. Thanks so much for coming on.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here with you, Christina. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So I'm really excited to talk to you. I came across your profile and just loved what you had to say. And also your book caught my eye, and I wanted to ask you a little more about that.
Okay, good stuff.
So I'd love to hear a little bit more about the Startup King and just when you created that, and then we'll dig into a little bit more detail of that.
Well, the Startup King is a very long story, but there comes a point in time in your life where you kind of got to look in the mirror, and you got to look at what is it that I'm actually really good at. What is it that I've done? I've been in business now for 22 years. Officially as an adult, I got into business, and you'll read about this in the book at a very, very young age. But I just had a passion for business. So this Startup King story is not like, I've decided today that I'm going to be a Startup King. This is something that I've spent 22 years starting companies. And I guess my skill set, some people are really good at finishing. I'm really good at starting. And so I've actually had a lot of people over the years, kind of come at me in a way where they would say that, being a startup or having a passion for startups or being really good in the startup phase of a company is a bad thing. And they would say, hey, Jeremy, you're really good at starting, but you're not really good at finishing, right? And so you can look at it in a negative way, but I decided to look at it as actually something that I'm really, really good at, right? So that's where this whole Startup King came from. It's like, man, I'm really good at starting companies. And there's a lot of people out there that want to start a business, but they don't know how to get started, right? And so having somebody like me, where the question is always asked to me, hey, Jeremy, how did you do that? Like, how did you just start that magazine? How did you just start that advertising company? How did you just build an app, right? So some of those things come more natural, to people, and some things, some people are just better at finishing, and some people are better at starting. So that's kind of what inspired the book. And then you obviously read. Did you read the preview edition? Yeah. So the preview edition covered, very, very high level. Kind of my story the last 3-4 years, what I've gone through in business and what my family's gone through. So it's been a pretty crazy last few years for us, but. That's kind of how I was inspired to tell the story, because in many ways I don't want to tell the story. But that's kind of a selfish thing, because there's a lot of people out there that could learn from some of these lessons and pay attention, most importantly, to the red flags, so that they don't have to, go through the pain and the suffering, that we've had to go through.
Right. And I love that you focus on your strength. And so I understand that strength of startups. The mentality at least started at the young age of 13. So that's pretty amazing. And that is obviously something that's in your spirit, something that's inborn, to be able to have that mentality at that age. Can you tell us a little bit about how that began?
Yeah, well, I mean, I grew up, how old are you, Christina? Are we allowed to share age here?
Sure, absolutely. I'm 37.
Okay, cool. So yeah, we're actually pretty close in age. So I turned 40 last March, and you and I grew up in a time where we didn't have the digital distractions that our kids have today, right? So we didn't have social
Absolutely.
media. We didn't have the gaming was very different back then. So we actually spent a lot of time outside, playing outside, riding the bikes, doing all that kind of stuff. And I grew up in a really small town. So where I grew up in this town in northern Alberta, it was called Mornville, Alberta. It's just a small town. There's not a lot to do in a small town like that. And I just always had the itch. I grew up, in a family where we didn't have money. So if there's a lot of things that I wanted to do, I consider myself to always, kind of be a dreamer, a big thinker. And so there was a lot of things that I wanted to do in my life that my parents couldn't afford to do. So I had to find a way to make that happen. And so I started to figure out, hey man, if you want something, you got to go earn it. You got to go work for it. And so at the age of 13, I started to cut lawns. That's really how I got into business. I started cutting grass, and I started to realize that hey, I was trading my time, cutting this grass. And at the end of the day, when I got that job done, I got cash in my hand. I got paid for it. So that was a pretty exciting thing to discover at the ripe age of 13.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so obviously you just talked a little bit about already what lessons about business that you learned from that point. Are there any other early on lessons that you learned about business that you carry through and you use on a daily basis now?
Yeah, I think we're living in a culture right now, especially with the young entrepreneur movement. It's so cool to have a startup. It's so cool to have a business. But one of the reasons why I started this movement of No Bull Biz is because there's a lot of BS out there in business, and one of the things that I'm finding, and you probably find this as well, doing some influencing and building a brand online, is that you get hit up a lot from people that have opportunities or they're trying to sell you something. And I think one of the things that comes with experience, that comes with age and maturity in business, is the ability to first start off by building a relationship. And I probably responded in a vetting a way with you because when people reach out to me, I always assume that it's somebody in Forex or Bitcoin or
Right.
whatever. And by the way, just for the record, you don't have to join a direct sales company in order to invest in Bitcoin or currencies or anything like that. So that's kind of a big lesson, and I think a lot of people won't learn that in the early stages. It's funny, they'll go to a business conference, they'll go to a personal development event, and they'll talk about relationship selling. They'll talk about how important it is to build a relationship, how people buy off people that that they trust and that they respect. But people are so quick to just hit you. And I understand. Listen, there comes a point in time where you have to get through the numbers, right? You have to sort. And but if you want to become really, really good in business, and you're not in it for a quick buck, for a pump and dump, but you want to build something that's maybe legacy driven, legacy focused, is
Right.
focus on building a relationship, because if you build a relationship and you earn a customer or you earn a business relationship through a personal relationship, you'll have that business and you'll have that relationship for a very, very long time, hopefully for a lifetime.
True. Yes. Totally agree with that. And also, I mean, that person, once they realize that, hey, you're in this to actually know me, to know my needs, to actually help me, they're also going to refer you to other people that they know you can help as well.
This is another thing. I think this is one of the biggest challenges with young entrepreneurs, is that they have such short-term thinking, such narrow vision, and I think it's important to understand that, Christina, what you said, because there's a lot of power in what we call tap rooting in business, right?
Hmm.
And so when you build that relationship, and when somebody trusts you and they respect you, they will open doors for you, right? And those doors that are open for you, I mean, it can take you months to build rapport respect in a relationship, where a really good relationship can open up a door and get you through that door literally within minutes. I'll give you a real quick example of that. So I've been building a relationship with somebody down in the U.S., and I look at this individual as a mentor, not just in business, but also in a spiritual capacity. I've got a faith-based background, and so this is somebody that I really, really respect, and we've never done business, right? So I've known this guy for 8 or 9 years. And, hadn't seen him in a couple of years. And I was down in Vegas for a healthcare event. I have a healthcare business, and I was down there just before Christmas. And we went for lunch. We were catching up, and I was showing him what I was doing. And he's blown away about what we're doing with one of our companies. And he said, I really want to connect you with this individual. And this particular individual happens to be very, very, very successful in business. And he's actually a billionaire. And so I was connected with that individual at the end of December, which led to another meeting with that individual. And there's some really exciting stuff now coming out of that relationship, right? But for me to actually get to that individual, first of all, if I cold call his company and I was trying to get through, a receptionist, or I was trying to get through, we call it, the gatekeeper in business, right? I probably just never would have got that meeting, right? Because he's just too busy, and he's really focused on what he's doing with his projects right now, and he's not looking to take on another project. But because of the relationship and because of the opportunity that I had to sit down with him and create the vision for what we're doing with our company, not only do we benefit from that, but he also benefits from that as well. So that's a really important thing that you said, and I think people have to really, really pay close attention to that, because relationships will open doors quickly.
Right. And you can also tell the intent too. I mean, there's people that build the relationship simply because they want the sale. And then there's people that truly want the relationship and then have the sale be a product of that, which I think that's really admirable. And I can tell that you do that in your businesses.
Yeah, so true. I mean, honestly, the best friends that I have are people that are involved in my companies. Because you know this, Christina, when you run a company, or you run several companies, I have 3. It's your whole life, right? It's your whole life. I don't just hang out. I don't just, I'm not looking to fill my time. Any spare time that I get, I use that to spend time with my wife. I use that to spend time with my 2 girls. So, I think that's one of the most beautiful things about business and relationships in business, is that, they really become your best friends. And, one of my business partners, I've been friends with him, for 17 years. And, it's somebody that I really, really trust. And trust is hard. Trust is really, really hard to earn. You can lose it in a second. But man, I'm telling you, it's just such a beautiful thing when you can actually have a conversation with a friend who understands your day-to-day, that understands what you're going through. Because let's face it, if you sit down and you have a conversation with somebody who's not an entrepreneur, that's not living and breathing, your day-to-day life, the conversation is just so bland. It's just so vanilla ice cream. And by the way, I don't mean any hit on anybody who loves vanilla ice cream, because I do. But but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, if you ever listen to conversations, overhear conversations in restaurants or in the airport, you'll notice that, the conversations are just so high level. It's so blah. Right.
Yeah, and that's so true. And I feel like they can, if they're your friends, of course they're trying to listen, they're trying to understand, but really they're sitting there thinking, okay, I'm being nice, I'm being kind, we're trying to open an ear here, but they're really not comprehending the day in and day out. And they're trying to support you as much as they can, but it only goes so far if they're not in your shoes. That's so true.
It is true. I mean, even you, right? And one of the things that, I asked, we were setting up the podcast and, go through some technical stuff. And I said, Christina, how are you on time? And so right away, the first thing, you think about is, hey, I got to pick up my kids, at this certain time. So somebody who's never had kids, somebody who's not building a family, doesn't have a family, they just don't understand that dynamic, and they truly won't, they just won't respect it. And they won't respect your time either, right? People who really don't run several parts of their life, they're just kind of drifting through life. They don't really understand time management. Like they don't understand and respect time. And time is a very precious commodity, very precious.
Sure is. It sure is. Yes. So, and time being one of these things, I feel like there's so many factors that go into creating, a successful business, and time management is huge. And there's also so many other, trials and things that we go through to get it right in business. And
Yeah.
I understand that there's been a lot of highs and lows throughout the beginning of owning your businesses, and I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about some of those, trials and frustrations, and then how it led to later on some devastating situations that you're blessed to have come through.
Hmm. Yeah, it's like I said, we live in a time where business is cool, business is even sexy, right? But
Yeah.
the reality is it takes a lot of work, And once again, it depends on what type of business you're building. But if you've got this great vision, and I really feel that all of us, if we really search deep down inside, we've got this calling inside of us to do something great. Maybe it's even impossible, I mean, if we sit down and we try to figure it out with a calculator and 1+1 and 2+2, I mean, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. But I really feel that inside of us, we've got this calling to do something great and to build something amazing. And it just takes time. And a lot of times, what we don't realize in the moment, that if I go all the way back to when I started my first real business,
Yeah.
and I just got married. I got married at 19, married my high school sweetheart. We hooked up when we were like 16 years old. So we started life young. And all of a sudden, I'm quitting my job and starting a company. And my wife's like, "What the flip are you doing?" And so, you build and you fail. And then you
Mhm.
build and you fail. And when you fail, what you don't really truly understand in the moment is that you're gaining foundation. You're gaining really solid material. And so every time that you fall down and you come back up, you actually level up, right? And you can't get to the next level until you go through some really, really serious pain in your life. And so one of the common denominators, and I think the only person we could eliminate out of this profile, are people that are kind of handed, maybe like the royal family, or somebody who's born into a billionaire status, and dad hands off a company to this person, raises them up to run the company. That's a different situation. But for the most part, if you look at anybody that's done something really, really great, Elon Musk, for example, Elon
Yeah.
Musk has had a tough climb. A
Yeah.
tough climb. I mean, let's face it, Tesla was bankrupt at one point, and it was not looking good from the investor standpoint. SpaceX, right, was blowing up $70 million rockets when they first started, right? I mean, you imagine standing outside watching 70 some million dollars blow up in your face.
I cannot imagine
That
that.
sucks. That sucks, right? So,
Yeah.
but what we don't understand now is that, we're watching SpaceX put rockets up in the air, multiple times a month. He's actually going to do a multi-stage launch this week. So they're putting rockets up almost like, we're sending cars down the interstate. I mean, it's crazy. But what people don't understand is that these overnight successes are not overnight successes. This takes years and years and years, and in many cases, a lot of pain. So the lessons that I learned coming out of 2015, and remember, when I went into 2015 and was launching my shoppable tagging app, it was such an exciting time. But all of those years being in advertising and marketing, building relationships with brands, having conversations about loyalty, the cost of acquisition, the cost of keeping, a customer, all of that knowledge and all of that understanding went into what we built with that company. But I had another lesson to learn. And that lesson that I had to learn was an entirely new lesson on investor relations, right?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so now there's this whole other conversation that I have, when people are looking at starting up a company, I don't coach a lot right now because I don't have time. So I'm very picky in terms of who I work with. But, I had a young man come to me the other day and said, "Jeremy, I really want to build a business. Would you recommend me going to school for 4 years and getting a business degree?" And you know what I said to him? I said,
Hmm.
"No, I don't recommend it. I think it's a waste of money." And,
Right.
I'm not knocking education in this podcast, okay? Because there
Yeah.
are people that need to go to school. You want to be a doctor, you want to be a lawyer, you want to do something like that. you got to go, you got to get educated, and you got to get that foundation. But in business, think about the world that we live in today. You can literally jump on YouTube today and learn how to do anything.
Absolutely.
Right? The only reason why you won't have success in business is because you're too lazy or you won't take action. So you think about that, Christina. 4 years of being in school, going after a business degree, which, by the way, you're probably getting taught by somebody who's never owned a company, never signed paychecks, right?
Very true. Yes.
Think about the experience you could get. So I said, look, hire a business coach, right?
Yes.
Get a couple really good mentors around you, right? Read a book a week, right?
Yeah.
And then go to work. And think about it. If he works his ass off today with all the resources that we have, the guy could be a millionaire in 4 years. What happens when he comes out of university in 4 years with a business degree? He's got, what, $100,000 debt?
For sure.
So I think it's absolutely idiotic. And I said, you know what, man, honestly, this is what I would do. It's my opinion. Don't take it as fact, but that's what I would do. And
but it's also based on fact. So
it is.
When you see it happen, it is fact.
It is. So. I think maybe that was a little bit of Gary Vee coming out of me. I definitely don't drop the F-bombs like he does. But Gary Vee's right. He says, look, at the end of the day, get to work.
Right.
Get to work, right? And there's magic when you're in the trenches and you're working, right? You're building these relationships. One meeting leads to another meeting, to another meeting, to another meeting. Magic happens when you're actually taking action. It really is true.
Right. Action gives you leverage for more action.
Big time.
Mm-hmm.
Big time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, definitely. Thank you for that. And I do agree. I think that, there's so many people out there that are going the standard route, or actually I shouldn't say standard, the standard that was, and continue to go that route and then wonder, okay, now how do I get a job? Now, how do I get up to speed with new business ideas? Then they're still going to go after hiring a business coach, which they could have done from day one. And they're doing all these things secondary when they could have started right, from the get-go with all of those things.
Totally.
So,
yeah, totally.
So as far as your story and your background, what leads you to inspire others, like with your story, your personal story, your life experience, all of that?
Well, I mean, going through what I went through in 2015, losing my company, it's a very long story, but, the Reader's Digest version is, we had a family friend come into a lot of money. He won the lottery in Canada and ended up becoming a silent partner in a tech startup that I had at the time. And so, it was an exciting time. It was an exciting time. We were able to, one of the biggest things that holds back businesses is not having the financial resources to build quickly. So we were able to take, an idea from basically a prototype and have it fully coded and launched within 6 months. That included buying an office building, renovating it, and going from 0 to about 14 employees. So, I mean, you look back and you go, that's crazy. I mean, I remember when we sat down and we talked with the engineering team and the development team that was going to, help us put this app together. And they flat out told me, Jeremy, this is impossible, man. Like we can't do this in 6 months. So we have to do it in 6 months. We have to do it in 6 months. Got to come out before Christmas. And so our target was to release the app November 1st. Well, we did it. We made it happen. We did the impossible. And, you sit back and you look at all of that and you go, what am I supposed to do now? Right. I mean, I got taken out by this family friend and, it was a bogus lawsuit and there was a lot of pain, that went around that. I mean, I literally spent a year in bed. I never understood depression until that year. You would hear people talk about mental health issues or being depressed, but you didn't understand it, and you don't understand it until you actually go through it and you experience something like this. And so for me, I really felt like that was the end of the road for me. I mean, to the point of, settling the lawsuit in August of 2016. And then, just a couple of short months later, deciding to walk down to the high-level bridge in Edmonton and jump and take my life because I just really didn't believe that I could come back from a hit like that. Yeah, we're definitely living in a time now where, it's unfortunate, but people are, because of the internet and social media, people are now guilty unless they can prove their innocence. And, it's sad. It's disgusting because you've got people literally that are losing their careers and, down the road, the facts come out, the evidence come out, and Justice Kavanaugh is a great example. What he went through, and where's the accountability? Why is there no penalty for these people that are hurting people legitimately? And so in business, I tell people all the time, take your time, pay attention to the red flags. Character is everything. And if they have bad character in small things, even if they're joking around, I always say social conversation when you're vetting a potential investor or partner is the best. Put that person into a social atmosphere. If they drink, let them have a couple of drinks. Let's see how they respond to criticism. Let's see how they respond to the heat. And if people start joking around about stuff that should never be joked around about, you got to pay attention to that. Don't brush that off. That's a red flag. And trust me, you might have a temporary benefit today, maybe financially, maybe you're going to get that investment deal, whatever. But if it's not meant to be, that's going to fall apart in the end anyways. And so you're just wasting a lot of time, and you're going to put yourself through a lot of pain for no reason. Right.
It's not worth forcing it.
I mean,
when the character is on the line, it's not worth it.
I mean, you really think about it, Christina, from my perspective alone, right? We had, a small group of investors. We really didn't have a lot of investors, but, when my dad's friend won the lottery and he invested, well, we had this falling out, and he created this, bogus lawsuit and came out and came after me to take everything away from us. He launched this lawsuit 2 weeks after, just after we had launched the application, the actual mobile app, the actual technology. So it makes no sense to take a startup out. And so, yes, I got hurt because it was personal, right? It was an absolute personal attack. I'm not going to have it my way, then I'm taking you out. If it can't be done my way, then nobody's going to get this. And so I got hurt, but what's really unfortunate? All the other investors, they also got hurt because we had no control over it. I mean, it was just taken away from us, right? And then so that's the really sad thing. So there were red flags, 100%. The very first couple days that I had met this individual, there were red flags just on what he had said, and there were issues with his character. And I should have walked away. And I didn't. And what did it end up costing me? It cost me everything.
Right. Yeah. But at the time, it's like, you see this glimmer of hope, and you see the possibilities, and you see, what this opportunity could have brought. And then instead you get this devastating blow. That's a breach of trust. And that's really sad, that it had to happen that way. But, unfortunately that it happens consistently with so many different people. And so you're right. It's very important to watch those red flags.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what, the biggest takeaway from something like that, and you really have to learn from these lessons, otherwise they're obviously a waste. But one of the biggest things is, I'm so careful now who I do business with, and that's just the bottom line. I spend so much time up front, vetting and really getting to know somebody before we walk down the aisle, right? Because business is very much like a marriage, and everybody gets excited in the beginning. It's the adrenaline's flowing, and the butterflies, and everybody's having a great time, and everybody loves you until they don't get their way. And then it's just like, I'm out. And if I'm leaving, I'm taking you out too. And so it's sad. And what's really sad is when it happens with somebody that we really felt that we could trust, because it was a family friend, or was somebody who, was like-minded, or had, a similar faith background. So, these things are challenging, but you have to pay attention to the red flags. I can't say it enough. You have to pay attention, because people will let you know up front what they're made of. They will.
Yeah, it's true. If you look hard enough, you can see their intent, but sometimes we like to look past that and, give them a benefit of the doubt, but that's not in our favor. It's just not.
It's true.
Yeah. So, and definitely, I mean, from hearing everything you have to say, I can definitely hear your why in this all, because you do want to do better. You want to show, show people what's possible, really. And also, warn people about knowing character. That's huge. But can you tell us a little bit more about your why story and kind of carry that over into how it carries over into every part of your life?
Absolutely. So you know what, Christina, I really feel that, after what I went through with this, with this particular experience, it was a decision that I had to make. I really had two choices. Choice number one is, become a victim for the rest of my life. Lean on my mental health challenges, maybe go on drugs for the rest of my life, maybe become addicted to alcohol, just become depressed and just really take advantage of the system that will support me as a victim, right?
Right.
So I had every reason to just check out and just become, a statistic, right?
Yeah.
But then I had another decision, and the other decision was come back better, come back bigger, come back stronger, and not just for me, but my family was counting on me. My daughters were counting on me. My wife was counting on me to do that, to make that move, to be a warrior, to man up, to come back and fight hard. If you go back in time and you study some of the great characters, even in the history of, the Bible, these were warriors. These were people that not only fought to take territory, but then to protect their territory. And it's just like business. There's acquisition, but then there's also, keeping that business and maintaining that business and servicing that business. So life is no different. So when I made that decision, which was option number two, was to come back, the very first thing I had to do was I had to focus on my health, and I had to focus on my mental health. I had to start focusing on getting mentally fit. Again, I mean, here we are now, almost 5 years out from, when all this got shut down. We've had to have multiple restraining orders on this individual, for harassing my family, harassing my kids.
Wow.
And, I'm still dealing with harassment and bullying online. And, when I talk to my business coach about this, Christina, he says, Jeremy, you need to get loud. You need to get loud. You need to produce content. You need to get video out there. You need to go out and focus on what you've experienced, tell your story, and help other people. Because you know what? Yeah, there's all this BS, that's said about people out there. But if people get a chance to actually get to know you, and you give them an opportunity to get up close and personal, and experience the transparency behind building a business, then that kind of trumps everything, right? At the end of the day. And so, I made that decision last year. And I got to tell you, it's not easy. And that's one of the reasons why I decided to write the book. Was I got a story to tell. A lot of people could save themselves from a lot of pain, a lot of suffering by reading that book, by reading that story. But most importantly, send the elevator back down for the next guy. If you have an aha moment in your life, if you have an awakening, if you go through something and it really helps you, and you're able to come back stronger, you're able to come back better. Send the elevator back down for the next guy. Help the next guy get to that level. And so I feel like, I guess one of the passions for me right now is mental health. We've got a very serious problem in this world right now with depression and anxiety and just overall mental health and mental health management. And so I'm passionate about it because I've experienced it, I've lived it, and it's a daily battle for me, to be able to get in my lane, stay in my lane, stay motivated, work hard, and fight through all the BS. And so, what is the purpose? What is the purpose of living, Christina, if it's all take and it's all me and it's all I, right? Life is about helping other people. That's what this is about. And so
I couldn't agree more. That's, yeah, absolutely.
If we're going to do something, if we're going to go build a business, if we're going to work on something, let's work on something that's going to have residual effect, that's going to help people and impact people's lives.
Yeah. And I really love that you dive deep into all the things that can happen, whether it be positive or negative, with building a business, because I think so many people, as you mentioned before, they see the tip of the iceberg. They see all the success stories. And, a lot of people are giving advice from that vantage point once they've already made it, and they don't go deep into all the struggles and all the trials and, people that don't maybe believe in you and people that are cutting you down and trying to shortchange you and things like that. So I love that you not only go into that, but also go through all the things that happen along the way, and then how you use those as fuel to get yourself to where you are now. And so they can see it's possible to not only start the business, but go through all the, idiosyncrasies and all of the challenges that entrepreneurship has, and then come through and then reach out a hand and say, listen, I have made it now, but I went through all of these things. I battled these things. They almost killed me, but now I'm back where I need to be, and I'm going to reach out a hand. So that's huge.
Yeah, and I think life. I mean, you need to have purpose in life, right? It's funny. Everybody gets excited about the cars and the houses and all the dreams and the goals, and that's good.
Yeah.
And I've experienced that in my life too. But there has to be more. And so when you have purpose, when you know that your story is actually more than just a story. I mean, you think about some of the people that have been maybe the most influential in your life, Christina, or some of the stories that you've read that may have contributed to you doing what you're doing today. It takes stories, and it takes other people, other human beings, to inspire us and encourage us to make that leap, to make that jump, if you will, into really what we're called to do. And so most people in the world will settle. Right? Because it's easier to settle. It's easier to, collect a paycheck and show up and not have the pressure that you have when you're going out to build something great. And that's fine. I mean, everybody has their own calling. Everybody is on their mission. But I can tell you one thing right now, that when you have purpose, when Christina, you could probably help me with this, but there's that saying that, you have two birth dates in your life. You have one when you're born, and then you have another one when you actually realize why you were born, why you were created, why you were put on this planet. And that kind of happened for me last year, to tell you the truth. It's a powerful moment. You're 37, right?
Yes.
And I turned 40 last year. And as I was creeping up to, my birth date, I was just doing a lot of reflection. I was really trying to really focus in on, what's this next part of my life going to look like? I mean, if I'm blessed to live to 80, that means I've lived half my life. And so, it's like, whoa, we take these days, we take these weeks, these months, these years for granted. And all of a sudden you're looking at, man, if I'm blessed to live another 40 years, I'm halfway there. So, you really start to sit back and go, hey, wait a minute here. Like, what am I actually doing this for? And I think you had asked me, to really zoom in on my why. And, there's obvious parts to my why. Of course, I want my wife and my kids to have the life that I feel that they deserve. And I want to rebuild that quality of living, that quality of life for them, and give them the best that they can have. But there has to be something that really triggers the deepest part of your soul. And when you find that, when you have that awakening, and getting up in the morning and building and going into meetings, it's a totally different thing. It's a totally different deal.
Yeah, it is. And then when your story can produce a catalyst for change for somebody else, that's when it's so powerful too. It's like that my story is touching other people's lives, and it's encouraging them to pursue their story and finish their story the way it's meant to be. And that's amazing.
100%. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, I know you say, you frequently reference to life is a gift, and just how you described it is beautiful. So, and life truly is a gift, and you're using that gift for yourself, and you're also sharing it with others, and, inspiring your family, inspiring the people that you tell your story to. And that's amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, thank you so much for being on today. I really appreciate it. And I know you're going to continue to inspire so many people, because you're raw and honest, and you're telling, people what they need to hear from a personal standpoint and a business standpoint. And that's so important to have that authenticity, where so many times people are just, throwing around shiny objects, and, they're not really teaching people what they need to expect and what they need to learn before jumping into business. So I really appreciate all of that.
My pleasure. My pleasure. It's been great to be here, Christina, with you. And, I guess the best thing that we could possibly do is just keep passing the baton, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I would love for you to just tell people where they can follow you and continue, watching your journey and being inspired by everything you have to say, and taking all those things into consideration when they're, in their own life with their own business.
Sure. That's awesome. Well, thanks for the opportunity. You can follow me on Instagram at the Jercraw. That's my personal. So that's TheJerCraw. My name is Jeremy Crawford. So Jercraw, that's where that comes from. It's been a nickname of mine since I was a teenager. So the Jercraw, and then same thing on Facebook. If you search Jercraw, you'll find me there as well. And then, basically where I like to hang out in terms of just kind of, and I don't do a lot of hanging out, but it would be our No Bull Biz. You can go to nobullbiz.com. We're going to be adding all kinds of really cool stuff to our website this year, which will include some really good resources kind of surrounding the whole Startup King movement. It really is a movement that I want to start, because it's, let's face it, the startup culture is big. And we've got a lot of people out there that have really great startup stories, and that can really help people. I've been getting involved with a lot of startup communities, speaking at startup events, and it gives me an opportunity to meet other great founders and CEOs of companies. And what's really cool is we've all got the same story, right? We've all gone through our crazy battles, and so that's kind of the best way to to connect with me. I've got 3 companies. So we've got AppKit Labs. We're a full service digital agency. So we do everything from branding, mobile app development, custom software development, websites, video production, all that kind of fun stuff. It's been my passion since I was a kid. Digital, video production, stuff like that. So I get to live out the creative side of me there. And then I also have a healthcare company in the United States. We're focused on bringing pricing transparency to the healthcare world. As you know, Christina, healthcare is a mess in the United States. There's so much fraud in and around the healthcare industry and healthcare insurance and all that kind of stuff. So what we've done is we've built the first Airbnb, Uber type platform for healthcare, which really helps people that don't have insurance or can't afford their deductible. So we've got a really cool stuff. We've got unlimited telehealth support for families for under $60 a year, unlimited family members. About 70% of all your primary care medical needs can be handled through a telehealth call. So telehealth is great. It's also very, very convenient, right? And, and then we've also got Health Pass, which is coming into play with our company, and that's unlimited general medical services for $100 a month. So if you need to see a doctor, unlimited appointments, unlimited examinations, IV, basic diagnostic services, stuff like that. So it's cheaper than having insurance. It's really, really exciting.
Yeah, that is very exciting, because I know a lot of people struggling right now just to maintain their health care. So that's amazing.
Big time, big time. Oh, and the third company, I'm really excited about this one. We've got a hemp medical cannabis growing and manufacturing company in the U.S. I've got a partner in Asia, and I've got 2 partners in the U.S. So we're really excited about just helping people through growing and processing and manufacturing the highest quality products in the United States, and distributing those products around the world. So really, really excited about that.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's amazing. And especially the healthcare one, that just speaks to me, because I hear that so often, how am I going to afford my healthcare? How am I going to do this? So that's all 3 of those businesses are going to help so many people.
Yeah, totally. Right on. Yeah. Cool, Christina.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on. And I'm sure both of our audiences appreciate everything that you brought to the table today. And we continue to follow you and look to you for inspiration with business and also personal growth. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me again, Christina. All the best. Bless you. Bless you and your family.
Same to you.
All right.
Take care.
Ciao.